We hear this term a lot. I keep my circle small. These people get you. They understand you in the spirit. Sometimes you need to add people to your relationship sphere. It's not the season for you to be able to just sit around, chop it up, and just have fun and do all that stuff. It's a season for you to build. If your relationship is toxic, you need to exit. They invite you up to that space. Why? Because you're equal now in value. On this particular episode, I want to talk about the secret to successful relationships. And I define this philosophy based on 5 specific symbols that we've seen since grade school, symbols that we've seen since young children. I think they explain and bring such a good perspective to the thought of relationships and how to define and develop them. This episode came about because of a few conversations, isolated conversations that I had with a couple of people that are very dear to me. And I was talking to them about some of their relationships, their friendships, and they were sharing with me. And I said, this is something that I think if these young people could grasp early in life, that it will help them really avoid a lot of heartbreak and headache, if you will. And some of this is good for us adults who've been doing life for a while and still haven't gotten it. It's something that helped me define relationships for myself. And I felt like I needed to share it with you. So here we go. There are 5 symbols that I believe will help you define and develop your relationships. And the first symbol is one that I feel is the most important and should be the most valued when it comes to your relationships, and that is your circle. We hear this term a lot, especially in the hood I'm from. I keep my circle small. You know, everybody's talking about their circle. What does that mean? The circle is a specific group of people that you value the most in your life. A circle can be your family. It could not be your family. So let me put that out there. Your circle might not be made up of your family. So I want to make that clear because I don't want you to think that just because they're your sister, your brother, or your aunt or your uncle, whatever, that they have to be in your circle. That's not true. Your circle is made up of individuals who get you, who understand you. That's the first point. And when I say get you, I'm talking deeper than just the human level, what you like to eat, what ice cream you like, whatever the case may be. I'm talking about deeper than the surface of what you like, somebody who gets you in the spirit. Somebody who understands you in the spirit. And understand this, that sometimes it may take time to develop. It may take time for people to move from one phase of life into this circle. These people get you. They understand you in the spirit. Not only that, these are made up of people that respect you. They respect who you are as an individual. And not only that, you respect them. So I want to be clear, this group or category of relationship is not made up of yes men and women. That's the second point. These are people who can call you out and you not be offended and you not be taken back or ready to fire them as your friend. These are people who can challenge you to be better. These are people who support you regardless of the differences. These are people who can be honest with you and you honest with them and not fall into a place where I don't like you anymore. I think that's important to understand. And some people classify their friends as this. I have to be clear because you can have friends that are not in your circle. You can have friends that don't really get you in the spirit of who you are. You know what I mean? And when I say the spirit, I don't want you to get confused. I don't want religious people to take that and make it seem like it's deep and wonderful. When I say in the spirit, I'm talking about the spirit of you as a human, as an individual. What is your spirit? And I say that because this is an individual who, when something comes up, say for instance, you're hanging out with a group of friends and somebody who's new to the environment or the friendship says something or says you said something or says you did something, the person who's in your circle will be able to quickly identify whether that is true or not. And not only that, they will be quick to nip it in the bud. These are people who have your back when you don't even know it. If an individual comes to you talking about what they or them are saying about you, and they have not dealt with it. Now, it's different if they're coming and they're trying to help you get understanding or get direction and create the vision of where it is you're going. I'm talking about somebody who's just bringing in gossip and things that really don't mean you any well. And they're talking about what they or them or he or she said and not telling you how they handled or dealt with it. That would be the first conversation that someone in your circle is coming to tell you. They automatically might tell you a little bit about what the person said, but they telling you pretty much, I had to check somebody. because of this, this, and this. If they have to say that, because sometimes it's not even necessary to bring up. But the circle is made up of people who get you in the spirit, people who you respect and you respect them. And that's important to understand, because if a person respects you and you don't respect them, they can't be in this environment, because this environment is one of intimacy. This environment is one where you can let your hair down, you can open up, you can be honest, you can be transparent about who you are, what you're doing, what you're building, what your heart is. This is that group. And keep in mind, for some people it may, but it might not be a very large group. So just because you like a person, don't try to shove them into this environment, this circle. This circle is for people who have proven themselves to be worthy. Sometimes it could take time and sometimes it may not. And I say may not because I have personally developed relationships with individuals who I have met wherever it may have been. And I've met them one time. We had one conversation. We had one lunch. We had one outing together. And automatically our spirits were connected. And we've been connected ever since. And out of that, we had to reverse engineer and begin to learn about each other. But in the spirit, there was that connection. That happens sometimes. God called, to me, I call it divine relationships. So that happened where God connects you with an individual that you were not even looking for. If the power that be had not brought you together, you probably never would have looked at that person or seen that person and developed a relationship with them. So there is a such thing as divine relationships. Those sometimes happen, and usually they happen with a purpose. Usually God is trying to move in a certain way, and there's an absolute need for you and this individual to connect in order for purpose to be fulfilled. That's clear to understand. But then there are the others who you've met in childhood, people you grew up with, people that you met along the way, and then the relationship develops and they prove themselves to be a part of this circle. Now, keep in mind, sometimes people's position in the circle may expire. So don't think that because they're in your circle for a season that they have to be there all the time. Sometimes they're in your circle just for that season to get you to said place or for you to support them in said opportunity or vision, etc. But the bottom line is the circle is made of people who get you in the spirit, people who you respect and they respect you, people who can challenge you and confront you when you're wrong, people who can be honest with you and you with them, people you can be transparent with and you with them, people who can see where you're going and help you get there. Now, we talked about it may be made up of family. Sometimes it could, and sometimes it may not. Sometimes it could be made up of friends that you've met along the way, people who you've grown up with. A great example of that is Kevin Hart. Kevin Hart has this circle of guys who he runs with, and everything he does, they're a part of it. I think they have a couple of shows, and I've seen a couple of episodes, and it does my heart such cheer to see how he has left the door open for this group of friends that he collected and connected with along the way and has brought these friendships and caused them to develop. Now, I know there are multiple reasons why you do that, and we won't get into that, but one of the main reasons is because they were just as skilled and talented, and he felt like I have a responsibility to take them along with me. But had they not proven themselves to be worthy of the circle, guess what? He would not have brought them along. So understand, whoever they are, wherever they may come from, however you may connect with them in life, if they don't have the characteristics that I'm speaking of, if they don't have these elements, they're not worthy of the circle. Could they be worthy down the line? Maybe, but that will be developed. I wouldn't force anybody into this section in this area in your life when it comes to relationship, because if you do that, you can ultimately derail your progress in whatever it is that you're trying to get to. So wait till people prove themselves. Wait till they show you their character. Wait till they show you who they are. And granted, they don't have to be perfect because you're not. So don't try to look for somebody who's perfect. You just want to look for somebody that you can trust, somebody that can trust you, like I said, and then somebody that respects and you respect them, and somebody that you enjoy, because these people are going to be people that you enjoy their company, because typically your circle is people who you spend a lot of time with. But I also want to put a point there, though. They're not always those people that you put a lot of time with. Sometimes they are, and sometimes they're not. And I say that because I have people who are in my circle. One person in particular that I'm thinking of right now, I have not seen in about 2 years, primarily because we live in 2 different states. However, we talk regularly, but there can be sometimes months where we don't talk. It does not mean we are not in relationship anymore. It just means that we're doing different things and we're busy. This is something I want you to take, especially you young people. I think sometimes we bring a high school mentality to our adult relationships. And what that means is in high school, you had your best friend, your BFF, and we hang together, you dress alike, you go everywhere together, you call each other on the phone, talk all night, talk all day in school, et cetera, et cetera. And I think sometimes we get to adulthood and we try to hang on to that type of relationship. And sometimes it's not always feasible. Why? Because you're an adult now. You have different responsibilities. It does not mean that you can't have a mature and developing relationship. You can still have a developing relationship. You just make time and you do what you have to do. Just like I do with some of my people that are in my circle who I can call right now today, right now in this moment. And if they're not busy or they're not doing something, they're going to pick up that phone. And if they are busy, they're going to quickly text me and say, hey, call you right back. That's the kind of people that you have access. They have access. That's another thing with the circle. This is important because this is the element of people or the group of people that will help you excel, progress, and stay afloat and be successful in life. Why? Because they're your support system. I'm not talking about support system as in the people who are buying your product, goods, and services. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about support system as in people who can morally, emotionally, spiritually support you. This is your circle. The next symbol I want to talk about when it comes to relationships, and I think this one is just as important, this is the addition. These are people that you need to add to your life. You need to add these people into your life in order to be successful. This group is not necessarily made up of friends. This group can be made up of friends. Sometimes you need to add some friends in order to have the balance, because there are some people who have a lot of business relationships and people to help them do business, but they don't have a lot of people who they can be casual and cordial and open and honest and just have that let hair down moment with. You know what I mean? So sometimes you need to add friends, and sometimes you need to add colleagues, business partners, associates, etc. Sometimes you need to add people to your relationship sphere. Now, this is going to take you finding out who you are, where you are, and what you need. So this is going to take some self-identifying. So if you're an individual who has all the friendships, you got people that you go hang out with, have fun with, and you can share and laugh and have a good time with, but you have this vision that you cannot get off the ground, or this vision that you're trying to birth, you're going to be somebody who needs some people who have certain aspects that will help your business or help your vision come to pass. So that may mean you finding out what it is that you're good at and finding out what you're not good at and saying, okay, I need to find somebody that's good at that to add to the team. I need to find somebody that's good at this to add to the team. Or it may be something that you know how to do, you just don't want to do. So I need to find somebody that's good at this to add to the team, somebody who's efficient in this to add to the team. This is where you're always thinking of, I need to add in order to build. You're always in a building process, whether it be financially, spiritually, emotionally. It's an element of building. If you're one who has all of the support you need business-wise and in your corporate space, you may need more relationships in your personal space. So now you go out to different networking events and go out and hang out with other friends and meet their friends and go work out with folks. And now you're getting to other spaces to where now you can build that social capital for yourself. Now you can find out who you gel with and who you don't gel with and kind of try to develop a relationship there. And so it takes some ebb and flow, but it first starts with you identifying what you need, where you are. And I think this area, just like all of them, is ever developing. Now, these people you add may move into the circle round, may just stay on the surface. They may just stay friends. They may just stay colleagues. Whatever it may be, you need to make sure that whatever it is that you're needing in that space of your life, that they can bring it to you, whether it's just a listening ear, whether it's just support, whether it's just fun, whether it's a specific task, whatever it may be, you have to qualify them to make sure that they can add that to your life. Now, your circle, and I just want to make this point, these people might not have no idea on how to help you in business. They might not have no idea on how to help you move your vision. All they know is you can do that, girl. You got this. That's your circle. So they might not have no idea on what to do and how to help you with the vision. They might not know any of that. But all they know is you their girl and they believe you in what you're doing. Or you their guy and they believe in what you're doing. And they believe and know and support you because they know you can get it done. That's your circle. See the difference? So you got your circle and you got the addition. Now we need to talk about one other area. That's the subtraction. These are people that you have in your life already that you need to kind of minimize how much time you spend with them. Minimize how much you talk to them. Why? Because they may not add much value. They may waste your time in this certain season. You may be in a season when you're going and you're birthing and you're moving, and they mean well, but it's not the season for you to be able to just sit around, chop it up, and just have fun and do all that stuff. It's a season for you to build. It's a season for you to go and get. You know what I mean? So now you have to say, okay, I can't hang out every weekend. I can't talk on the phone every night. I can't sit up and just chit chat all the time. You need to minus. And sometimes these relationships can be tricky because it can get offensive, or people can take offense, I should say, to this, because they see the change, they feel the change, but they don't understand why. So sometimes it just may be necessary to have a conversation because they might not get it. They may not get it. So sometimes it may be just necessary to have a conversation, explain to them what's going on. Hey, you know, you my dude, you know, you my girl, whatever the case may be. I ain't trying to slight you, but I'm really got to focus on this. If I don't get this done right now, you can just be honest and share with them. But the point is, you have to identify, okay, is my time being spent well? So if I don't stop all this, I'm not going to get it done. So I have to minus or subtract the amount of time, the amount of energy, the amount of emotional energy. Sometimes it's not always hanging out. Sometimes it's not always just going out to have fun. Sometimes people can take up a lot of emotional space within you. So you have to minus the amount of emotional energy that you give them. And that sometimes can weigh even heavier than you just going out to have a cup of coffee and have brunch. The emotional wear and tear that they put on you sometimes can drain you, which means it's taking energy from something that could be productive in the vision or the efforts that you have in your life. So you have to minus your time. Sometimes people get offended, they can't get over it, and they may not take well to it. And that may mean that you just know that, okay, maybe this person is not meant for this season of my life. And you have to be honest with that, with yourself. You have to be honest with them about it, and you have to be okay with it. You may not want it to happen, but you have to be okay with it. If they can't get where you are in life and where you're trying to go, and just sacrifice this time for you to continue and build and do what you have to do, then they may not be meant for this next season of your life. And that's okay, because guess what? We just left the addition. God is going to add people who can ultimately replace that space that they took up in your life. You don't have to have ill feelings. You don't have to fall out. You don't have to dislike. You don't have to be nasty with them. You just have a conversation, come to that conclusion, come to that understanding, and do what you can. But if they're not willing and open to accept that, then you know that you have to walk away and let it go. Which brings us to our next symbol, the X. Don't nobody want to be bothered with their X. If you put an X in front of somebody's title that they had in their life, ex-fiance, ex-husband, ex-wife, ex-boyfriend, ex-girlfriend, ex-best friend, ultimately, that lets you know right there that that person is no longer for you. You don't want nothing else to do with them. So sometimes we ex people because the circumstances just say so. If somebody leave you and walk away with you and break your heart, what you going to do? But sometimes we file the X like we should. Sometimes we need to file the X and we don't. And what do I mean by that? If you have relationships in your life, and these are the relationships that I want you to learn how to X. And I'm talking to my young people, my young women, and my young men. If your relationship is toxic, you need to exit. EXIT, exit. It's called the ex-boyfriend or the ex-girlfriend or the ex-best friend for a reason. Why? Because we gonna exit each other's life. Sorry, it was good while we had our run, but it's over. X the life, X the relationship. If it's toxic, and what does toxicity look like? Because sometimes people get confused about that. I'm not talking about an argument here and there. Toxicity looks like this. If the relationship is one that leaves you drained all the time, you exhausted when you leave their presence, emotionally drained. When they come in the room, you're like, oh my God, ugh. You know what I mean? Because you know they're bringing all the drama, all the nonsense, all the issues, all the unnecessary emotion. If they drain you, if they bring out the worst in you, you find that you're always fighting and always combative and always going off on one another. The relationship is toxic, and you need to have some conversations, or not, because sometimes you can't have conversations with these people, or not. Sometimes you just need to walk away. But if you feel like there's room for conversation and the other person is open, have a conversation. See if it improves. But if it does not, you need to exit In other words, put an X in front of that title in your life and move on. This last symbol is most rewarding because it takes time to get there, and that is the equal sign. The equal sign is one where you work and you toil and you do what you have to do to get to a certain place in life, and now your contemporaries see you, respect you. Have you ever thought about how somebody who they drop an album or something like that and nobody knew who this person was, or maybe they had a small sector of supporters and then it grew and grew and grew, and then all of a sudden they just blew up. They probably been doing their thing back in their hometown and kind of going to show here and there, but they never had the world acclaim, respect, or attention that they're getting. You ever seen somebody do that? And all of a sudden, when that happens, they get into these circles of people who they once looked up, and they tell these stories about, oh, I remember I used to watch you on TV, or I used to listen to you on the radio. Oh my God, you used to be my inspiration. I used to have your poster on my wall. What has happened in that relationship? What has happened in that individual? The individual has now gotten to a place where they have developed relationships that are now equal to them. And what does that mean? We'll take Tyler Perry, for example, who came and built, and now he's been on the scene for a long time, but I'm talking about when he first came on the scene and blew up back in the day. All of a sudden, he had an audience with Oprah. He had an audience with the president and all these individuals who are valuable and respected in their space. How did that happen? They invited him to that sphere of influence. They invited him to that space. When you build something and you grow to a place where people can see you and respect you and ultimately announce who you are to them, you affect people in a way with your music, with your writing, with your skills, whatever it is that you may do, that it brings acclaim to that level. There are people who are going to invite you up to their space. Whoever these big names that you can think of in our culture. Why is this important? This not only validates you, but it lets you know not that you necessarily are equal to them in how much you make. You may not be a billionaire. You may not have as many awards and as many accomplishments, but what does it mean? What does the equal come into? They invite you up to that space. Why? Because you're equal now in value. Your value has been perceived in the world to the place where millions of people, thousands, hundreds of thousands of people are talking about you, what your music, what your craft, or what it is that you're building and you're putting into the world means to them. They now recognize you and the influence that you have, and they invite you up, not because you're on the same level as in pay grade or you're on the same level as in status. You're on the same level as in value. And this takes time to get to, but this is a place where, if God be willing, you want to get to, because what that means to you is that means all of the work that you put in back in the day, building, adding people, building a team, building a product, whatever it is, has now come to a place where it's been respected in the marketplace, and it's respected by those who you respect and you value. So these are the 5 symbols for what I believe are successful relationships. You want to take inventory of all of your relationships, all of the people in your life, and find out what category they fit in. Do they fit in the circle? Do they fit in the addition, where you're adding them, where you're developing a relationship, where you're getting to know them? Do they fit in the subtraction, where you need to minus the amount of time you spend with them? Do they fit in the X, where you need to exit the relationship with them? Or do they fit in the equal, where now God is showing you that you have value, and he's bringing you up or inviting you up to another level of influence? Wherever it may be, define it and develop it there. Take time to define your relationships with this philosophy, and I believe you'll have greater relationships and greater fulfillment in the relationships that you have. This has been the Build on Beauty podcast, where beauty is born skin deep. I'm your host, Cornell Jermaine. Until next time, let your soul be made whole. Take care.